They tied a paralyzed Apache girl to the cowboy's mailbox as a joke, but he took her in and. The town was nothing like the big cities with tall buildings and busy streets. Here, everyone knew everyone, and life moved slowly, almost as if it had its own gentle rhythm. But even in a quiet place, sometimes cruelty could sneak in, hiding behind laughter and games. A group of local children were wandering through the streets, looking for mischief. They were not bad kids, but they had grown used to playing pranks on people, and sometimes their jokes went too far. That day, they spotted something that caught their attention immediately. It was a girl sitting alone near the edge of the road. She looked small and fragile, and her eyes held a kind of sadness that the children did not understand. She was an Apache girl, a little older than 10, with dark hair tied loosely behind her head. Her body did not move easily. She had been paralyzed in an accident months ago, and since then, life had been very hard for her. The children whispered to each other, giggling nervously. "Let's play a trick on the cowboy," one of them said. They had heard stories about Hank, the man who lived alone on the edge of town. He was known as a cowboy, strong and quiet, someone who kept to himself and rarely spoke to anyone. To the children, he seemed like the perfect target for a joke. Without thinking about the consequences, they carefully lifted the girl and carried her to the mailbox outside Hank's property. She tried to protest, but her voice was weak, and the children ignored her soft cries. They tied her gently but tightly to the post, laughing nervously as they ran back down the street. They thought it would be funny to see the cowboy's reaction, never imagining how serious the situation could become. Hank had been tending to his horses when he first noticed the commotion. The sound of children's laughter and hurried footsteps carried across the fields. At first, he paid little attention, assuming it was just another prank or some minor noise from the town. But when he saw the girl tied to his mailbox, his eyes widened in surprise. He could see the fear in her eyes, the slight tremble in her body, and the helplessness that hung over her like a heavy cloud. Hank was a man of few words, not easily shaken by most things, but this sight stirred something deep inside him. His first reaction was anger. How dare someone tie a child to his property? How could anyone be so cruel? He felt a hot rush of protectiveness, not just for the girl but for the principle of decency itself. Yet, alongside the anger, there was a quiet understanding. The girl was scared, confused, and alone. She needed help, and no matter how much he wanted to scold the pranksters, he could not ignore her suffering. Carefully, Hank approached the mailbox. He spoke softly, trying not to frighten her further. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you," he said. His voice was calm but firm, carrying a sense of safety. The girl looked at him with wide eyes, unsure if she could trust this stranger. Her small hands fidgeted, and she tried to move as little as possible, afraid that any sudden motion might anger him. Hank knelt beside her and began to untie the ropes. "There we go," he murmured as he loosened the knots. "You're safe now." The girl's eyes filled with tears, and she whispered a small, shaky thank you. Hank nodded, giving her a gentle smile. He could see that her situation was more serious than just fear. Her body did not respond the way it should, and he realized she might need more help than he could give on his own. The children watched from a distance, their laughter gone, replaced by nervous silence. They had expected Hank to yell at them, maybe chase them off or scold them harshly. Instead, he focused all his attention on the girl, and slowly the weight of what they had done began to sink in. Guilt replaced their earlier excitement, and some of them turned away, unsure if they should face the cowboy's wrath. Hank looked around the small yard outside his house. It was simple and unassuming, with a few wooden fences, a stable for his horses, and a small porch where he often sat to watch the sunset. Nothing about it seemed prepared to care for a child, especially one with special needs. Yet he knew he could not simply leave her by the mailbox. That thought was unbearable. He felt a deep responsibility to make sure she was safe, warm, and comfortable. He carefully lifted the girl into his arms, something he had rarely done for anyone other than family long ago. She leaned against him, fragile and small, and for the first time that day, she felt a little relief. Hank carried her into his home, laying her gently on a bed he had cleared in a corner. It was a modest space, but he made it comfortable with blankets and pillows. "You'll be safe here," he said softly. "I'll make sure of it." The girl looked around nervously, taking in the small room and the stranger who had just rescued her. Hank could see the fear in her eyes slowly giving way to cautious hope. He brought her some water and helped her drink, careful not to rush her. Every small gesture was deliberate, meant to show that she was not alone, that she could trust him. Outside, the town continued its usual rhythm. People walked along the streets, went about their chores, and whispered about the girl tied to the mailbox. Some shook their heads, thinking it was a foolish prank, while others were quietly impressed by Hank's quiet courage. Word began to spread that the cowboy had taken the girl in, though few knew the full story. Inside his home, Hank sat quietly with the girl, not forcing conversation but simply being present. He understood that trust could not be demanded. It had to be earned, especially from someone who had experienced pain and fear. The girl slowly relaxed, leaning against him as if she had finally found a safe harbor in a storm. Hours passed, and the children who had played the prank slowly returned, hesitant to see what had happened. Hank did not shout or scold them. He simply gave them a look that carried more weight than any words could. Their guilt was immediate, and they realized the seriousness of their actions. The lesson was clear. Cruelty, even as a joke, could have consequences that touched lives in unexpected ways. As night fell over the small town, the sky painted in shades of orange and purple, the girl lay quietly on the bed, feeling a sense of safety she had not known for months. Hank watched over her, his expression soft but resolute. He knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test his patience, his strength, and his heart. But in that moment, he felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense that he had done the right thing. The world outside the walls of his home continued, with its small joys and quiet challenges. But inside, something had changed. A bond had begun to form, fragile but real, between a cowboy who had lived alone for many years and a young girl who had faced more hardship than most children could imagine. And though neither of them could know what the future would bring, they had taken the first step toward a story of courage, kindness, and trust that would shape both of their lives forever. Hank had spent most of his life alone. The small town knew him as the quiet cowboy who worked hard on his land and rarely spoke to anyone unless it was necessary. He had horses, a few chickens, and a modest home that had seen many years of care and use. Life had been simple, predictable, and often lonely. But everything changed the moment he took in the Apache girl. That small act of kindness would begin a journey neither of them could have imagined. After the first evening, Hank realized that taking her in was only the beginning. The girl, whose name was little Anna, could not move her legs, and even sitting upright required support. She had been living in her small family home before the accident, but her parents had struggled to give her the care she needed. Since then, she had been vulnerable, dependent on others, and often left alone. Now she was in Hank's home, far from anyone she knew, and at first the fear in her eyes made Hank wonder if he had done the right thing. The morning after she arrived, Hank quietly prepared breakfast. He boiled eggs, heated some bread, and poured warm milk into a cup. Anna watched from her small bed, unsure of what to do. Her life had been limited for months, filled with pain and frustration. She had learned to stay quiet, to avoid asking for help too much because she did not want to be a burden. Hank noticed her hesitation and spoke softly. "You don't have to be afraid. I'll help you. Take your time." His patience was different from anyone she had met before. There were no angry words, no frustration when she struggled. For the first time in months, Anna felt a flicker of hope. She tentatively reached for the bread, and Hank guided her hands gently. It was a small victory, but it meant the world to her. Every tiny step of independence she gained under his care felt like a triumph. Hank knew he had to make his home accessible for Anna. He spent the morning measuring doors, moving furniture, and clearing spaces so she could navigate more easily. He built a simple ramp for the small porch, allowing her to move closer to the sunlight and fresh air. Though he had never done anything like this before, he worked patiently, hammering nails and lifting planks, determined to make her feel at home. Anna, meanwhile, observed Hank's work quietly. She had seen people give up on her before or treat her as fragile and incapable. But Hank was different. He did not pity her, and he did not rush her. He spoke to her like she mattered, like her thoughts and feelings were important. Slowly she began to talk, telling him small details about her life. How she loved drawing pictures of the mountains near her home, how she missed her friends, and how lonely she had been since the accident. Hank listened without interruption, nodding and offering words of comfort. The children who had tied Anna to the mailbox began to visit, mostly out of curiosity and guilt. Hank allowed them to come near, but only under his supervision. At first, Anna was wary of them. She remembered the fear and humiliation of that morning. But Hank encouraged gentle interactions, guiding her to express her feelings and even forgiving the children for their thoughtless actions. Slowly, trust began to grow, and the children began to understand the consequences of their actions. They were learning responsibility and compassion, guided by Hank's quiet example. Hank also realized that Anna needed medical attention. He knew he could care for her physically to some extent, but there were issues he could not solve alone. He made the trip to the town clinic, explaining her situation to the doctor. The doctor examined Anna carefully, praising Hank for taking responsibility, and suggested exercises, therapy, and ways to improve her strength and mobility as much as possible. Hank took detailed notes, asking questions about every aspect of her care, showing a determination that impressed even the doctor. At home, Hank helped Anna with daily routines she had struggled with for months. Simple tasks like brushing her hair, eating, and bathing required patience, and Hank approached each one with care. Anna, who had often felt frustrated by her limitations, began to see that she could trust him. She laughed softly when he told her a joke while brushing her hair, and she even smiled for the first time in weeks. That smile was a reward far greater than anything Hank had expected. Evenings were the quietest part of the day. After the chores were done and the animals settled for the night, Hank would sit with Anna near the fireplace. He often told stories of the town, of the mountains and deserts he had explored, and of the animals he had raised. Anna listened intently, captivated by his words. She asked questions, and for the first time she felt that someone genuinely wanted to know her thoughts. Hank, too, found joy in these moments, realizing that caring for her had brought purpose and warmth into his life that he had not felt in years. Hank also made sure Anna had things to keep her mind active. He brought books, puzzles, and even some simple art supplies. Anna loved to draw, and she quickly filled pages with pictures of mountains, horses, and the small town around her. Hank displayed her drawings on the walls, showing pride in her talent. This small encouragement boosted her confidence and gave her something to look forward to every day. Despite the growing bond, there were challenges. Anna had bad days when her body would ache or when memories of her accident returned. On those days, she would cry quietly or retreat into herself. Hank never forced her to speak or act. He simply sat by her side, holding her hand or keeping her company until she felt ready to face the world again. His patience and calm demeanor made her realize that healing was a process and that it was okay to take time. The town slowly began to notice the change in Hank and Anna. Rumors spread about the cowboy who had taken in a paralyzed girl. Some townspeople were surprised, thinking of Hank as a quiet, reserved man, and they did not expect such kindness from him. Others were inspired, realizing that compassion could exist in even the most unexpected places. Slowly, the community began to see that caring for someone in need was a responsibility and an honor, not a burden. As weeks turned into months, the bond between Hank and Anna deepened. She began to trust him completely, sharing her dreams and fears without hesitation. Hank, in turn, opened his heart in ways he never thought possible. He taught her about horses, guided her in small exercises to strengthen her body, and encouraged her to explore her creativity. Anna's laughter returned, filling the home with warmth and light that had been missing for too long. One day, while helping her reach for a book on a shelf, Hank noticed the determination in her eyes. She was trying with all her effort to lift herself slightly in her chair. It was a small movement, but it was monumental. Hank smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "That's it," he said softly. "You can do it. I'll help you every step of the way." Anna's smile grew wider, and she felt a surge of confidence. Hank also taught Anna about patience and resilience. He explained that life would have challenges, and that some days would be harder than others. But he promised that she would never face them alone. Through his guidance, Anna learned that courage was not about being strong all the time, but about continuing to try, even when it was difficult. By the end of the part, Hank had become more than just a caretaker. He was a protector, a teacher, and a friend. Anna, who had once felt alone and abandoned, now felt safe, loved, and valued. Their relationship was unique, built on trust, respect, and genuine care. And though they both knew there would be more challenges ahead, they faced the future with hope, knowing that together they could overcome anything. In the quiet town, life continued as usual. But inside Hank's small home, a remarkable story of kindness, courage, and transformation was unfolding, one that would inspire anyone who witnessed it, and prove that even the smallest acts of compassion could change lives forever. As the days passed, the bond between Hank and Anna grew stronger. It was no longer just a matter of care. It had become a partnership built on trust, understanding, and quiet friendship. Hank had spent much of his life alone, and he had grown used to doing everything himself. Now he found himself thinking about another person constantly, planning his days around her comfort, her needs, and her happiness. For Anna, Hank had become the first person in months who truly understood her, who never treated her like she was broken or fragile. Every morning, Hank would wake early to prepare breakfast, feed the animals, and then check on Anna. Some mornings were difficult. Anna's body often felt weak, and simple tasks like lifting her arms or holding a spoon were challenging. Hank never rushed her. He would patiently wait, offering encouragement and gentle guidance. "Take your time," he would say. "We have all the time in the world." These words meant more to Anna than she could express. For so long, she had felt like a burden, like her existence was a problem for everyone around her. Now, she felt seen, understood, and valued. Hank also began to teach Anna small life skills that would help her become more independent. He helped her learn how to reach for objects on her own, how to position herself more comfortably in her chair, and how to use simple tools to perform everyday tasks. Some days, progress was slow, and frustration crept in. Anna would sometimes cry, overwhelmed by the effort required. Hank never scolded her. Instead, he offered a steady hand and a reassuring voice. "Every small step counts," he reminded her. "You are stronger than you know." Beyond physical care, Hank understood the importance of emotional support. Anna had experienced more fear and sadness than most children her age, and the memories of her accident often haunted her. Some nights she would wake up crying, frightened by dreams or by the lingering sense of helplessness she had carried for months. Hank would sit quietly by her side, holding her hand, and let her pour out her fears. He never interrupted, never judged, and never made her feel small for being scared. Slowly, these moments of vulnerability became the foundation of trust between them. Anna also began to open up about her past. She told Hank stories about her family, her village, and the life she had before the accident. She spoke of the mountains and rivers she loved, the small gatherings with friends, and the traditions her people had celebrated for generations. Hank listened intently, fascinated by her stories and by the richness of her heritage. He asked questions, genuinely curious, and Anna felt proud to share her experiences. She realized that someone actually cared about her history, her culture, and her thoughts. Hank did not just care for Anna inside his home. He wanted her to experience life beyond its walls. One day, he helped her onto a specially adapted wagon that allowed her to move more freely. They rode slowly through the town, past the fields and the dusty roads, where neighbors waved and smiled. Anna's eyes sparkled with wonder. She could feel the wind on her face, see the sunlight dancing on the ground, and hear the sounds of the world she had been missing. It was a small adventure, but for Anna, it was monumental. She had never felt so alive in months. The children who had played the prank on her began to change as well. Hank allowed them to visit, but under careful supervision. At first, Anna was wary of them, remembering the fear of being tied to the mailbox. But Hank encouraged her to forgive them, and over time, she began to see that they were learning from their mistake. The children started helping with small tasks, fetching water or offering to push her chair. They were learning empathy, patience, and responsibility, guided by Hank's quiet example. It was a slow process, but each small act of kindness from them reinforced the lesson that people could change when given guidance and understanding. Hank also introduced Anna to books and puzzles. He found stories about brave children, adventures in the mountains, and tales of resilience. Anna loved reading aloud with Hank, practicing words she had forgotten during months of isolation. They would sit together in the evenings, the fire crackling softly in the background, and take turns reading stories. Sometimes they would laugh at funny parts, other times they would pause to discuss the lessons hidden in the tales. These moments were more than entertainment. They were a way for Anna to reconnect with the world and with her own mind. Art became another outlet for Anna. Hank brought paints, crayons, and paper and encouraged her to express herself. At first she hesitated, unsure of her abilities, but Hank's gentle encouragement made her feel confident. She began drawing mountains, horses, and even little scenes of Hank's ranch. Hank displayed her work proudly around the house, showing that her creativity was valued. Anna's confidence grew and her sense of self-worth deepened. She was learning that she could contribute, create, and succeed even with her limitations. Despite all the progress, life was not without challenges. Anna had days when her body refused to cooperate, when the pain from her injury made even the simplest movements unbearable. On those days, frustration and sadness would take over. Hank never forced her to push herself. He would adjust her position, offer comfort, and remind her that healing was a journey, not a race. "Some days are hard," he said softly, "but every day you try, you grow stronger." His words were steady and unwavering, like a lighthouse guiding her through stormy seas. Hank also faced practical challenges. Caring for Anna required constant attention, and he often worried about whether he was doing enough. He spent hours learning about her medical needs, researching ways to improve her mobility, and consulting with doctors. He built small tools to help her with daily tasks, finding solutions to problems that seemed impossible at first. His dedication was extraordinary, driven by a genuine desire to see Anna flourish. The town continued to watch Hank and Anna. Neighbors began to recognize the change in both of them. Hank, once seen as a solitary figure, now radiated warmth and kindness. Anna, once quiet and fearful, now laughed and spoke freely, her spirit shining brighter each day. Their story became an example of compassion and resilience, inspiring others to reconsider their own judgments and assumptions about those in need. Anna's progress was slow but steady. She learned to feed herself more confidently, to participate in simple chores, and even to communicate her needs more effectively. Hank encouraged every small achievement, celebrating victories and offering reassurance during setbacks. Anna began to see herself not as a burden, but as someone capable of growth, someone worthy of love and care. As the weeks turned into months, Hank and Anna's bond became unbreakable. They shared quiet moments, laughter, and even frustrations. Hank learned patience he never knew he had, and Anna discovered strength within herself that had lain dormant for too long. They supported each other in ways that words could not fully capture. Hank's home, once quiet and lonely, now echoed with warmth, love, and life. One afternoon, Hank took Anna outside to the small garden he had cultivated behind his house. He helped her plant seeds, showing her how to care for them and nurture them into growth. Anna's eyes lit up as she realized that life could bloom again, even after hardship. She carefully touched the soil, feeling its texture, and placed each seed with care. It was a lesson in patience, hope, and the beauty of small beginnings. Hank watched her, pride swelling in his chest. "You're growing stronger every day," he said. "Not just your body, but your heart too." In the evenings, they would sit on the porch together, watching the sun set over the dusty hills. Anna would lean against Hank, feeling the security of his presence. They would talk about dreams, about what the future might hold, and about the life they were building together. Hank realized that caring for Anna had changed him profoundly. He had opened his heart in ways he never imagined, discovering that love and kindness could flourish even in unexpected circumstances. By the end of this part of the story, Anna had begun to regain not only her physical strength, but also her confidence and joy. Hank had become more than a guardian. He was a friend, a mentor, and a protector. Their relationship, forged through patience, trust, and unwavering care, had transformed both their lives. The challenges they faced were many, but together they were stronger, ready to face whatever came next with courage and hope. Life in the small town continued, with its quiet routines and gentle rhythm. But inside Hank's home, a remarkable story of resilience, compassion, and transformation was unfolding. Anna's laughter, her creativity, and her growing independence had filled the house with life. Hank, once a solitary cowboy, had discovered the extraordinary power of kindness and the deep rewards of caring for someone in need. Together, they had created a new world, one where hope, trust, and love could thrive against all odds. Life had begun to settle into a new rhythm for Hank and Anna. Mornings were filled with small routines, feeding the animals, tending the garden, and helping Anna with exercises to strengthen her body. Evenings were quieter, spent reading, drawing, or simply sitting together and watching the sun set over the hills. On the surface, it seemed like a peaceful life, but beneath that calm, there were challenges that neither Hank nor Anna could ignore. Anna's health remained fragile. Some days, her body ached so badly that even the simplest tasks were impossible. On these days, frustration and sadness would take over. She would sometimes refuse to eat, turn away from the exercises, or bury her face in a pillow, overwhelmed by pain and disappointment. Hank, who had learned patience over the past months, never forced her. He would sit quietly, sometimes holding her hand, sometimes simply staying nearby so she knew she was not alone. "It's okay," he would say softly. "We'll get through this together." Slowly, Anna learned that it was all right to have hard days and that healing did not mean being perfect all the time. Beyond physical challenges, there were practical difficulties as well. The small town offered limited medical resources, and finding specialized care for a paralyzed child was not easy. Hank made multiple trips to the clinic, consulting doctors and nurses, asking questions, and insisting on treatments that would help Anna improve her mobility and strength. Some townspeople whispered that he was wasting his time, that Anna might never recover. But Hank did not listen. He had made a promise to her, and he intended to keep it. At home, Hank improvised solutions to help Anna live more comfortably. He built simple devices to assist her with daily tasks, like a wooden support for holding her cup or a small ramp to reach the garden easily. He adjusted his home constantly, making sure there were no obstacles that could hurt her or limit her independence. Every improvement was small but meaningful, and Anna noticed the effort he put into making her life easier. It made her feel valued, loved, and capable. One of the biggest challenges came from the reactions of others. The town was slow to accept Anna's presence in Hank's home. Some neighbors whispered about how unusual it was for a man to take in a paralyzed girl. Some criticized him quietly, suggesting he was interfering in something he could not handle. Others simply stared, unsure of how to react. Hank paid little attention to the gossip, focusing instead on Anna and her well-being. Over time, though, even the skeptical townspeople began to notice the changes. Anna's laughter returned, her confidence grew, and Hank's dedication became impossible to ignore. Slowly, respect replaced doubt and admiration replaced judgment. Despite these improvements, Anna still faced moments of fear and insecurity. Memories of her accident haunted her, and she sometimes felt trapped in her own body. On these days, Hank became her anchor. He encouraged her to express her feelings, to talk about her fears, and to cry when she needed to. He never interrupted or dismissed her emotions. Instead, he offered understanding and reassurance. "You are strong," he would say. "And even if today is hard, we will face tomorrow together." These words gave Anna courage and reminded her that she was not alone in her struggle. Hank also realized the importance of teaching Anna life skills beyond physical exercises. He wanted her to feel capable and independent despite her limitations. He taught her how to communicate more effectively, how to ask for help politely, and how to express her needs clearly. They practiced small tasks together, like folding laundry, preparing simple meals, and organizing her art supplies. Each success, no matter how minor, brought Anna a sense of accomplishment. She began to see that her life was not defined by her disability, but by her determination and creativity. The bond between Hank and Anna became a source of strength for both of them. Hank had learned to be patient, gentle, and attentive in ways he never thought possible. Anna had learned to trust, to express herself, and to face challenges with courage. Together, they faced each day with resilience, supporting each other through the ups and downs. Their home, once quiet and lonely, had become a place of safety, love, and hope. One day, Hank decided to take Anna to the edge of his property, where the hills stretched out in gentle slopes and the wind carried the scent of wildflowers. He had built a small wooden platform that allowed her to enjoy the view safely. As they looked out over the valley, Anna's eyes sparkled with wonder. She had never seen anything so vast, so beautiful. Hank explained the different plants and animals, pointing out rabbits hiding in the grass and birds soaring in the sky. Anna listened intently, asking questions and absorbing every detail. It was a moment of freedom, of joy, and of connection to the world beyond her home. As Anna grew stronger physically, Hank encouraged her to participate in activities she had once thought impossible. He introduced her to gentle horseback riding, using specially adapted equipment that allowed her to sit safely on the horse. Anna's laughter filled the air as she felt the wind on her face and the gentle movement of the horse beneath her. It was a sensation she had not experienced since before her accident, and it reminded her of the possibilities that life still held. Hank watched her closely, proud of her courage and determination. Even with these successes, challenges remained. Anna's progress was not always steady. Some days were setbacks, where she could not move as easily or became frustrated with her limitations. Hank faced his own struggles, questioning whether he was doing enough, whether he could truly help her achieve independence. Yet every time he saw her smile, every time she accomplished something she had not thought possible, he was reminded of why he had taken her in. His dedication never wavered, and Anna's resilience inspired him to continue, no matter the obstacles. The town began to change as well. People who had once doubted Hank's ability to care for Anna began to see the impact of his dedication. They noticed how she laughed, how she interacted with others, and how her confidence grew. Slowly, neighbors began to offer help, bringing supplies, volunteering time, and showing kindness in small but meaningful ways. Hank welcomed their support, knowing that Anna would benefit from a community that cared. Through their efforts, the town itself began to transform, learning lessons about compassion, responsibility, and the power of human connection. Anna's relationship with the children who had tied her to the mailbox also improved. Under Hank's guidance, they learned empathy, respect, and patience. They began to help with small tasks, offering assistance without being asked and showing genuine concern for Anna's well-being. Anna, who had once feared them, began to forgive them, realizing that people could change when given guidance and a chance. These interactions taught her important lessons about trust, forgiveness, and the potential for growth in everyone. At home, Anna continued to explore her creativity. She painted, drew, and sometimes wrote stories about the life she imagined before her accident. Hank encouraged her every step of the way, celebrating each accomplishment and offering guidance when needed. Her confidence grew, and she began to see herself not as a child limited by her disability, but as a person capable of learning, creating, and achieving. Hank's support was unwavering, and the trust they had built formed the foundation for her continued growth. Evenings often became moments of reflection. Hank and Anna would sit together by the fire, talking about their day, sharing hopes and planning for the future. Hank taught her about resilience, patience, and the importance of kindness. Anna shared her dreams, her fears, and her aspirations. Together, they discovered that challenges could be overcome when faced with courage, determination, and support. Their home became a sanctuary, a place where growth, love, and hope flourished despite life's difficulties. By the end of this part of the story, both Hank and Anna had grown in remarkable ways. Anna's body was stronger, her confidence was rising, and her spirit was brighter than ever. Hank had transformed from a solitary, reserved man into a compassionate guardian, patient teacher, and loving friend. Their journey had not been easy, but the challenges they faced only strengthened the bond between them. Together, they had created a life filled with hope, resilience, and the understanding that even in the face of adversity, love and kindness could prevail. The story of Hank and Anna, once just a strange tale whispered in the town, was now becoming a lesson for everyone who witnessed it. It was a story of courage, patience, and the extraordinary power of human connection. Life would continue to bring challenges, but Hank and Anna were ready to face them together, knowing that they had already overcome so much. And in that quiet town among the hills and the fields, their remarkable story continued, a testament to the transformative power of compassion and care. Time had passed, and life for Hank and Anna had grown into a steady rhythm, one filled with small victories, quiet moments of joy, and a deep, unbreakable bond. Anna's body had grown stronger, and while she would always face challenges, she had learned that with patience, determination, and support, she could accomplish things she once thought impossible. Hank had transformed too, from a solitary cowboy to a compassionate guardian, mentor, and friend. Together, they had faced difficulties, celebrated successes, and discovered the true meaning of family. One morning, Anna woke up early as she often did, her eyes bright with curiosity and energy. Hank was already outside, feeding the chickens and checking on the horses. The crisp morning air carried the scent of the earth, fresh and comforting. Anna had learned to move more confidently in her wheelchair, and she made her way outside with ease. She watched Hank work, admiring his strength and dedication. "Good morning, Hank," she called, her voice filled with warmth. He turned and smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "Good morning, Anna," he replied. "Ready for a new day?" She nodded eagerly. Breakfast was simple but hearty. Hank had prepared eggs, bread, and fresh fruit, and they ate together on the porch. As they shared the meal, Anna told him about a dream she had the night before, a dream of exploring the hills, running freely and laughing without fear. Hank listened carefully, encouraging her to imagine possibilities. "One day we'll make that dream real," he said. Anna smiled, her heart filled with hope. These moments were ordinary on the surface, but they carried a profound sense of connection and trust that had grown over months. Hank continued to teach Anna life skills, helping her gain as much independence as possible. He showed her how to prepare simple meals, organize her belongings, and even tend to the animals with his guidance. Anna learned quickly, her confidence growing with each small accomplishment. She began to understand that while she had limitations, she also had strengths that could be developed. Hank's patience and encouragement were unwavering, and Anna thrived under his care. One of the most remarkable changes was in Anna's spirit. She had once been quiet, hesitant, and fearful. Now she laughed often, spoke her mind, and expressed herself with creativity and confidence. She painted vibrant pictures of the mountains, the horses, and the small town around them. She wrote short stories about adventures and friendships. Hank proudly displayed her work around the house, showing that her talents were valued. Anna's growth was a source of pride and joy for both of them, and it inspired others in the town as well. Hank also introduced Anna to the wider community. He encouraged her to attend small gatherings, meet neighbors, and participate in town events in ways she could manage. At first, Anna was nervous, but Hank's presence gave her courage. She began to form friendships, learning that people could be kind, supportive, and understanding. The children who had once played the prank on her now treated her with respect and care. Anna's story had become a lesson for them, teaching empathy, responsibility, and the importance of helping others. Despite all the progress, challenges remained. Anna had days when her body felt weak, when pain made movement difficult, and when frustration threatened to overwhelm her. On those days, Hank was always there, offering support, encouragement, and reassurance. "It's okay to have hard days," he would say. "Every effort you make matters, no matter how small." Anna began to understand that resilience was not about never failing, but about continuing to try and never giving up. Hank's guidance and belief in her strength helped her develop courage that would last a lifetime. Hank himself faced his own challenges. Caring for Anna required constant attention, emotional strength, and physical effort. There were times when he felt exhausted, unsure if he was doing enough, or worried about the future. But every time he saw Anna's laughter, her curiosity, or the joy in her eyes, he was reminded why he had taken her in. His dedication was not born of obligation, but of love and a desire to see her thrive. As time passed, Anna's abilities continued to improve. She learned to maneuver her wheelchair more easily, to communicate her needs clearly, and to participate in activities that once seemed impossible. Hank encouraged her to explore her creativity, pursue her interests, and embrace life fully. Together, they built a routine that balanced care, learning, play, and growth. Each day was an opportunity to face challenges, celebrate successes, and strengthen their bond. One memorable afternoon, Hank took Anna to the hills near the edge of the town. He had constructed a special platform that allowed her to enjoy the view safely. As they looked out over the valley, Anna felt a sense of freedom she had not experienced since before her accident. The wind brushed against her face, the sunlight warmed her skin, and the sounds of nature filled her ears. She laughed, the sound bright and unrestrained, and Hank felt a deep sense of pride. "See, The world is full of possibilities, he said. Anna nodded, understanding that her life was no longer limited by fear or past experiences. Hank also encouraged Anna to engage with animals. She spent time brushing the horses, feeding the chickens, and helping care for the small farm. These activities taught her responsibility, compassion, and independence. She discovered that she could contribute meaningfully, that her presence had value, and that her abilities extended far beyond what she had imagined. Hank's patient teaching and unwavering support helped her grow in ways that were both practical and deeply emotional. The community began to embrace Anna as well. Neighbors who had once whispered doubts now offered help, bringing supplies, volunteering time, and showing kindness in small but meaningful ways. Anna's story had become an inspiration, demonstrating the power of patience, dedication, and compassion. People in the town began to see that helping others, even those who seemed vulnerable or different, could create profound change. Hank and Anna had not only transformed their own lives, but they had also influenced the people around them. Anna's creativity flourished. She painted, wrote stories, and drew maps of the town and surrounding hills. Hank encouraged her at every step, celebrating accomplishments and offering gentle guidance. Anna's confidence grew, and she began to believe in her abilities and in the value of her own voice. Hank's home became a sanctuary of learning, creativity, and emotional growth, a place where mistakes were allowed, curiosity was encouraged, and every effort was celebrated. Evenings were moments of reflection and connection. Hank and Anna would sit together on the porch, watching the sun dip below the hills, talking about dreams, hopes, and plans for the future. They laughed, shared memories, and sometimes sat in comfortable silence, simply enjoying each other's company. Hank often reminded Anna that life was full of challenges, but facing them with courage and support could make all the difference. Anna had learned this lesson well, and she faced each new day with optimism and determination. Over time, Anna began to dream bigger. She imagined exploring further into the hills, writing stories for others to read, and sharing her experiences with children who faced similar challenges. Hank encouraged her to pursue her dreams, providing guidance, tools, and encouragement. He helped her understand that her disability did not define her, but rather, her courage, creativity, and perseverance defined her. Anna had grown from a frightened, fragile child into a confident, determined young girl ready to face the world. By the end of this part, the transformation was remarkable. Anna had regained confidence, strength, and joy. Hank had become a more compassionate, patient, and loving man than he had ever imagined. Their journey had been difficult, filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. Yet, it had also been filled with laughter, triumphs, and the deep satisfaction that comes from caring for someone with love and dedication. Together, they had created a home filled with warmth, learning, and hope. Their story became a lesson for the town. It demonstrated that compassion, patience, and dedication could change lives. Anna's growth inspired others to approach challenges with empathy and courage. Hank's quiet guidance and unwavering support showed that love and kindness could create extraordinary results. People began to see that helping someone in need was not a burden, but a privilege, and that even the smallest acts of care could ripple outward, touching lives in ways that were impossible to measure. One day, as the sun set over the hills, Hank and Anna sat together, reflecting on how far they had come. Anna smiled, her eyes shining with confidence and happiness. "Thank you, Hank," she said softly. "For everything." Hank smiled back, feeling a warmth in his heart he had never known before. "No, Anna," he replied. "Thank you. You've taught me as much as I've taught you. We've done this together." In that moment, the struggles, the pain, and the hard work all felt worth it. They had faced challenges, learned from them, and grown stronger as a result. Their lives were no longer defined by fear or limitation. Together, they had built a story of hope, resilience, and transformation. Anna had learned to trust, to dream, and to embrace life fully. Hank had discovered the extraordinary rewards of compassion, patience, and love. And though the road ahead would still have challenges, they were ready to face it hand in hand, knowing that together they could overcome anything. In the quiet town, where life moved slowly and people watched from their windows and porches, the story of Hank and Anna stood as a testament to the power of kindness, courage, and human connection. What had begun as a cruel prank, a moment of fear and uncertainty, had transformed into a remarkable journey of growth, trust, and hope. Their bond, forged in adversity, had created a life filled with love, laughter, and possibilities. And as they looked toward the future, both knew that together, they had the strength to face anything that life might bring.